This is Justin for Friday, December 2nd, 2022, looking at SPX. We had a really nice bearish retest gap today. And you can see we went from way up here all the way down here. But the way that we opened up, we had this incredible, I think it's the Dragonfly Doji. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Anyway, click the link in the description and you can go to a website where we talk about candles and all kinds of stuff and just learn tons of information for free. But it's a really big hammer candle. I just think it has a special name to it. Dragonfly is the one that comes to mind, but I'm not sure if that's right now. The rest of this like hour was inside of that, broke out, retested, had a secondary retest. So you can kind of look at this as a gap down and then a really nice S curve, or you kind of smooth it out. We kind of got going back up into these lines. So here was a really nice 10 EMA setup that could have been played probably a little bit aggressively like this, and get your stop down here below a bigger bull candle. Way down here just wouldn't have given you that risk to reward to get back up to this line or this line. Would have been a little easier if this was the amount you're risking, and then that's a 1-to-1 to about here, which we did end up hitting. Then we kind of made this double top here, had a nice bear 10 EMA setup right here after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bear candles. I'm not crazy about those because it feels like they've played out a little bit. But in this case, taking that bearish would have worked really well. Could probably do that again aggressively. The pretty tight setup, 1-to-1 would have been about here. So, 1.2, 1.4, somewhere in this range would have been a nice way to play that. And then we just kind of chopped around for a little bit. I really like how we bounced off of this line here, just kind of like how we tagged it there. And then we almost tagged it here. This was a really nice kind of morning star reversal sort of pattern. Obviously not 3 candles, but this candle was amazing. So really nice hammer. You can get in bullish there, and a stop comfortably would be here, possibly this far. And then this candle would have triggered that in. So even though this dips back down and technically that candle would have like canceled the setup, you're already in. And so you're in with that candle breaking there. Yeah, I'm trying to draw right where it is. Let me redraw this. Here's the setup here. And then this just runs. This is 13, I counted them before I started the video, 13 bull candles in a row. If you were in right here, you probably would have been hitting a stop. Like if this was your setup, or even this, you probably would have been hitting your target around the previous high here, and maybe having another target a little further up if you were still in it. Probably not calling the top way up here. But this went up for about 40 minutes. So obviously 13 candles, 39 minutes, and then it had an upper wick here. And that's the kind of ones I was like, okay, that's a really strong run. We got all the way back up to the last candle from Thursday. That's a great place to have a target if you're somehow still in it, or if you got in on a different sort of setup. That's a really good place to have a target, or to get in bearish, and that did roll back down. Kind of gave a 10 EMA bear setup here. But it's so close to the end of the day. What's it really going to do here? Well, sometimes it can just chop into the close, and this time it actually rallied again. But this setup we'll look at, this was really nice 10 EMA, also played out on the 4075 call. Just didn't have the same colors on the candles. Things didn't match up exactly. This was, let's see, this candle was the 121, and then the candle after it 124. So the 121 candle was this one, and then the 124 candle somehow was a bull candle, even though it was bearish. So if you were doing the options, you would have gotten into this like maybe 0.8 by maybe 0.4, something like that, or 0.5 even. This very next candle actually would have triggered you in instead of waiting until over here. So then you're already in this on the very next candle. And if you see it within a few minutes and you're basing your setup on the 121 candle, I mean, you can buy a pullback on any of these candles because you're technically already in, and anything else would have given you a better entry. So that's sometimes what I watch for, because I mean, getting it at a little bit of cheaper price is only going to help my risk to reward. If I get a better smaller amount of risk, I might be able to get into more contracts, and then, yeah, this would have been just a great one to hold on to. Getting out probably at these same pivots up here, right around 5. That would have been a really good target. So let's say you're in at, let's just say the setup here, you're in at 0.8 and you're out at 5. So it's a 4.2. It moved up by 4.2. And if you got, for easy numbers, you got your stop set at 0.4. So with $100 risk, you could have easily had 2 contracts. That's a really nice gain. I mean, any day, that's a really nice gain. It didn't end up pushing up to 9 here. You're never going to, consistently figure out a way to buy the low and sell the high. And I've, sold the low and try not to buy the high, but I've sold the low and I've bought, one of these highs on a pivot, and then it's like, oh, get stopped out. I've had that happen too. But on the put, the 4075 put, this is the 121 candle here, and we actually had like a very small tick of like bullish buyers, very light volume. The volume in this was 6 contracts, but as this is really dropping, you see the volume spikes here. It's like, what is going on there? So this, I'm guessing because it's getting less expensive, some people are buying these, looking for it to reverse, and maybe some of them lost money. I mean, you don't see as many exiting as it's up going up here, or somehow they're selling for last minute premium, something like that. This just shows, the volume of contracts, but it just seems like that's a lot of contracts that are going to expire in the next, hour, less than an hour. So hopefully they're selling and they got some premium out of that. But anyway, back to the daily here. So we're right back above these lines. This is a really nice flag pattern here. It's almost like we bounced off of the 200, which has now moved right in line with kind of this lower line. So the lower line is at 40.47 and the 200 is 40.46. I think if we somehow had an inside day, back inside of this range, but maybe bouncing around inside of these candles, that would be best case scenario. And if that ended up being bearish and then had a gap up above that, I think we trap some more bears looking for this rollover right now. But this is enough of a rest, and we retested back into the previous highs on both of these pivots. So this is enough resting after this bull candle that we could just continue to push on up. So I'm anticipating some more bullishness to come back in this week. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to go sideways much longer. I mean, we did enough of that through here, and we already showed we were pushing higher through the 200. So that's what I'm thinking is we should push higher this week, but I could totally be wrong, and we'll reassess if that ends up happening. But yeah, some really nice setups. This could be also absolute zero, so you're just going to buy at 1 at any point in here. You could technically do that. Ideally, you wait for the 10 EMA setup to do that. Or you're buying off of a level. So this would have been a great place to be buying. The 40.75 call is a long way up here. So obviously you could have been buying at a little bit of a different price. There were different setups on this. Let's just say you're looking for a retest, a longer retest back into this bottom yellow line here. So that's at 1209 where it tagged that. So let's go see what you could have done at 1209 with, how about the 40.50 call? What happened at 1209? Just another way to play it, so here we are, it's pulling back. At 1209, it actually comes into about the same low that it had earlier at 906. So probably having a setup to buy this at like $6, probably $6. That would have been a really good setup. And then your stop is $100 risk, your stop is at 5. And let's see, this came down to 550. What would your target have been? Your target would have been 10 to get right back up to this kind of last pivot here. So that would have been buying at 6, stop at 5, target at 10 for a 4-hour gain. And then you could have basically done it again, except you would have had to buy a little bit lower. You were probably looking to buy a little bit lower because the premium gets sucked out as the day goes on. So this would have been, this candle didn't touch it. So 109. 109, we did not yet tag this line, so you're probably looking for it to pull back a little bit more on this one, on the 112 candle. So at 112, it does pull back a little bit lower. Maybe a setup to buy at 5. maybe 450. 450 would not have filled. 5 should have filled on this candle, but it's also buying blind. The RSI is oversold, so you do have that going for you, but not much else. I mean, the line, sure, it bounced off of this level, but what's to stop it from pulling back right into this line again? And maybe that option would have been worth only 4 at that point. So it's very much risky to get into this as a blind buy. Um, Especially, I like this kind of reversing here on this RSI, where it doesn't quite get up to this more orange line. But this is what you got to do to go back and assess things and figure out, okay, where is the edge with this? Obviously, we know now it worked, but we didn't know that. Then here's the 121 candle. This was more than a $2 range, so the 40-50 call would not have worked here to do a $100 risk. The only way you could do that is if you bought a pullback, but that would have been like setting up at the low of 7, and that didn't fill. It didn't come back to 7. If you did midway through, then your stop would need to be probably a little more comfortably, 650. You're buying at 750. That's possible, but that's not even midway of this candle. That's, you see this come down to 710. It's like, oh, maybe I could get 750 after the candle, and sure enough, it would have filled. Well, hopefully, yeah, this candle 740. So maybe this candle at 740 would have filled you at 750. That's really the only, and that's still just more of a gamble, looking to just kind of get into something on a massive pullback. From basically you're getting in from 9.6, a pullback to 7.5. So that's like a 2-hour pullback, which I guess that's not too crazy. I would have liked to have a different option where I can get a stop below, previous candle or something. So it would have been like this candle, stop would have been at least down at 6. That would have been more comfortable for me. So maybe that's the 40-60 call, something like that. So that's just another way to kind of look at the same setup here. The other thing we can do is look out into next week. So how about the 5th? That's Monday. But now we got to go a little further away. Well, let's look at 40-50 just to see the price. So at 40-50, this is now 1.6 range. And yeah, you're buying at like 18. So let's go out a little bit. The volume is going to drop significantly here too. So what's this one doing? 121. I do kind of like this a little bit. You're buying probably about 750. So it breaks out in this candle, which would have been like buying at 8. Yeah, buying at 8, stop down at 7. That actually would have worked for Monday with the 40-75 call. And then ran up from 8 up to 13 to these pivots. That would have been a nice 5-hour gain. So that would have worked. I thought we would have been out to the 4100. Let's see if there's just more volume there. These candles are a little fuller. You do have some really small ones here, but they're a little fuller than the 40-75. If we go out to Tuesday, how does this look? Yeah, Tuesday's lighter volume again. Even though it's 4100, price is okay. It's 7. Yeah, the volume's even worse here. The 8th, yeah, even less. Maybe the 9th, because that's Friday again. Yep, volume comes back in on a Friday, but here we are back with the more expensive price. So now we got to go out a little further, maybe 41.25. So this is all a lot to do right here. As you're trying to set up a trade, you want to get in. This is a lot to go through looking at the options. So, I like sticking with the quarter options. So the 0, 25, 50, 75, to see if those will offer something. But then also, it's just easier to play those when you're, closer with expiration too. So if we come back to Monday, this would have been probably the easiest one to go with. So for Monday's expiration at the 4100 strike, you would not have had a bear candle here until this one over here, but it would have triggered you in basically getting it set up to get in probably 250 by 150. And that would have been a nice setup, and that would have been a run up to 5, maybe 550. Just depends on, probably 5. No, probably 5. So that would have been from 2 hour to 5. So you would have doubled, or 2.5 up to 5. So you would have doubled the option, made 2.5 R, and that would have been a good play too. So not as much as looking at what we just looked at on the same day expiration. So definitely something to consider where you even did have a bearish candle on this bull run. So this actually could have offered a secondary entry, maybe on another option, and seeing that there's a little bit of a rest here that you didn't get as SPX was moving up. So something to consider, something I want to look at a little bit more. But hope this helps. It's Justin. Thanks.